TV Live. Let me start off by saying the views that are expressed on this Dope Living TV Live are not necessarily the views of Dope Living TV or its affiliates. It's just ours. Today, before I do that, bring my brother Chris Mills on, brother.
It's that day.
It's that day. It's
that day.
Want everybody up on this joint. Look at Gina coming in here. What's up, Gina?
Hey.
Hey, Gina.
I thought you were gonna be late. I thought you were coming.
You didn't catch the 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time? That's 9 o'clock y'all time?
No, I didn't. I just
put the 7 p.m. in there because I knew to throw it at everybody else.
Hey, you know what, Gina? We need to send Chris to the shack.
Hey.
Don't send nobody to the shack.
Hey.
I always ask for forgiveness.
If the shack is like it's all that, you know, we're gonna talk about it though. We're gonna talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
Looky. The one who made us watch this is not here at 7:05.
She did say she was running a little late.
Nah, you can't put it in.
She did say she was running a little late.
She knew too. She knew a month ago when we was doing this.
Uh-oh. That's okay though. She'll be there. So everybody, today we are talking about the movie The Shack. It's based on an international bestseller. It stars Sam Worthington, Octavia Spencer, and Tim McGraw. All right. It's a spiritual movie. And I didn't know that at first when I was watching it. It's a spiritual movie, and I'm telling you, man, if you guys did not watch it, you
missed out. You missed out.
But they don't have to miss out because they can still watch it.
Yeah, it's still out there to be watched and be seen, but the conversation that we're gonna have today, they're gonna be lost.
Yeah, because I got questions.
But this is not a movie that you can, a lot of times, I'm not a movie person. So Robert's the movie buff in the family. I'm not a movie person. I can't tell you, some actors and actresses, I can tell you who they are. But for the most part, you can throw out a name and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know who that is. But a lot of times when I watch a movie, I'm doing something else, like I'm multitasking. This movie, I didn't multitask. You have to give your undivided attention, but you want to give your undivided attention. So I started off the movie multitasking, and then I rewound it, and I started over again, like halfway through the movie. I'm like, wait a minute, let me go back. And I started over again, and I watched it without multitasking, and then I went back again because I'm like, let me do that again. So I watched it again, and then I went back the other day and I watched it again because I just wanted it to be fresh on my mind. And you also said, Chris, you watched it 3 times and never it was something different.
I watched it all day today from 8 a.m. and it just went off like 10 minutes ago. I probably watched it 5 times today.
You know what? I was like, I went back when I finished watching that movie. I went back and I looked for another Shack because I was like, this cannot be the movie Jocelyn wants me to watch because I'm sitting here with my face all wet. I'm like, this can't be the movie because it got to be like a comedy or something, the Shack a comedy or something like that. This can't be it because this was just too deep. And I was like, yeah, I think this is it. And that's when I came on. I'm like, Jocelyn, why would you send me to watch that movie? Like,
yeah,
maybe she was trying to tell us. She's trying to tell us something, but that the movie is a movie about faith. It's a movie about forgiveness. It's a movie about choices. It got deep. How can, to a point where, especially towards the end after he went through his ordeal. I'm not going to say too much, but he had to make a choice to forgive. And I'm gonna leave it at that. He had to make a choice to forgive, and it's just so odd the way that the movie played out. But the way that they wrote it was good. I like the way it was done.
It was done. They did do a great job with that. And she said there's a book.
There's a book as well. The movie.
The book is probably just as dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Let's welcome Trisha Lynn to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
What's going on, Trisha? You watched the movie?
Yes, I did.
Uh-oh.
So I'm ready to discuss.
Ready to discuss.
We're gonna let a couple of more get on here, then we're gonna get real deep into it. But yes, man, it's a movie about spirituality. Like I said, choices, faith, forgiveness, and to me, it was like a spiritual Wizard of Oz. You know what I'm saying? You know, and you know, you were in my dream, and you were there, and you were there.
But you didn't even catch that until later. You didn't really catch what was going on until later, you know.
Right.
And I'm like, a lot of pieces came together.
Yeah,
a lot of pieces came together.
I'm gonna throw this part in there too. So you remember when the guy?
Not yet. We gotta wait.
We gotta wait
for the person that told us to watch all this.
Right.
We have to wait.
He might not even come on. Y'all don't even know. He might not even come and join us. Y'all asking me to wait, but I can suppress it. Trisha, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
We are here.
We are here. Amen to that.
And ready, man. I'm telling you. So overall, since we don't have to talk about it, but overall, if we were Siskel and Ebert and we had to rate the movie, what would you give it?
Out of what?
Well, let's go with the thumbs up and the thumbs down first.
Oh, I would give it a thumbs up for sure. Definitely a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Only thing is, I don't know why, but Octavia Spencer.
Wait. Not yet. Don't go into it yet. Not yet.
They stifling us right now, Trisha.
I see.
Not yet.
I'm ready to go in.
They're like, wait.
I finally get a chance to just show that I did do something, you know, like
we did our homework.
Right.
And you know how Greg is on homework, so he get an A for effort.
Today, that's just today. You ask me again. You ask me again. Ain't gonna happen, okay? And I'm not gonna lie. I watched it 2 days ago. Actually, I started watching it 2 days ago, but then I watched it again today because I said, you know what? I ain't gonna be the only one not knowing what's going on. All right. So I hooked up, but it was a good movie. And Chris, I'm not waiting on her. I'm not waiting. I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
Yeah, but you know what, Chris, you mentioned another movie. I'm not familiar with that movie.
Yes, it's not out yet. It's coming out.
Okay.
It's called American Skin. We could talk about that. It's
But
called American.
But wait a minute. Before you do that, this movie actually was right along with the subject we had this week too. It had a
yes,
it is.
Let's welcome Terry Griffin to the show.
Hello.
What up,
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi, Terry.
I'm doing.
How your mama doing?
Mama doing and Daddy doing fine. We just finished loading 45 bags of shoes onto a truck. Yeah.
Man,
Terry, tell everyone what you do. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow, but just give them an overview of what you do. We won't go into any detail because we're gonna talk more into detail tomorrow.
And let's welcome Dr. Joy Lynn and
Hey, you lied, Chris.
You didn't catch the Pacific Standard Time at the end of that 7?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, y'all.
Go ahead. Tell everybody what you do.
Now we can begin.
Oh, wait a
Well,
minute.
let Terry introduce herself since she's new on the panel today.
Oh, I didn't know I was gonna be on the panel. I was calling in to listen. Boy, y'all know how to hoodwink people.
Oh yeah, that's
Should
what
have
we
known.
do.
Y'all got Jocelyn on there.
That's
I need some shrimp and grits, girl.
Gina does.
Jocelyn, I later found out when I was talking, Terry and I had probably an hour and a half long conversation, and then I found out that you two knew each other. I didn't know that.
Yeah, her restaurant is my mobile office.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, when you start trying to get some people, you take them where they can get good eatings, and they hooked.
We can get love, though.
Kill, fatten them up and kill. Okay.
No, not for the kill.
All right. So the movie is The Shack. This movie was done in 2017. Okay, and like I said, it's a spiritual movie. It deals with testing your faith, forgiveness, abuse. It has a little bit of everything in there. Okay, so Josh,
don't forget understanding. That's one of the big.
Understanding.
That's one of the big.
I think that, in my personal opinion, that's the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You can label things a lot of things, but not to be redundant. Just the summary. Since we can't do the trailer, I can read the summary.
Well, Jocelyn, Chris made us wait on you because we was getting ready to go ahead and go.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming. I was taking care of
the
business. I was taking care of the business.
Like, how's she gonna tell us to look at the movie and be on time? And she ain't. But no, I understand that. So go ahead and give us a summary about the movie.
Okay. So after suffering a family tragedy, Mac Phillips spirals into a deep depression that causes him to question his innermost beliefs. Facing a crisis of faith, he receives a mysterious letter urging him to an abandoned shack in the Oregon wilderness. Despite his doubts, Mac journeys to the shack and encounters an enigmatic trio of strangers, led by a woman named Papa. Through this meeting, Mac finds important truths that will transform his understanding of his tragedy and change his life forever.
Mm-hmm. 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 Now, in that movie, and I'm just going to throw it out right off the bat, it went back and forth. Okay, Mac had his father was an alcoholic, and any aggression towards Mac, and so Mac ended up leaving. I think he was 13, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't believe in nothing. He didn't believe in God. He just was out there. He was real twisted. Okay, but he eventually got married, and ironically with a woman who was very, very, very she was real deep in the faith in God, to a point that she called God Papa. So anybody can jump in now. I mean, I want everybody.
Well, that goes back to
let me bring in Jory Lynn and Miss Davis. What's going on?
Look at that. Come back on screen. Come on. Take off the mute. Let's have this discussion. Come on.
Go ahead, Chris.
So that goes back to my question that I asked yesterday.
Yes.
About God being a male or a female.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you was, what came first, the woman or the man? Can you have a man without having a woman?
That's.
Or can we take it even a step further? What do you call God? In your intimate relationship, in your meditation, when you are having your alone time and you're conversing with God, what do you call
it? Let's go.
Well, my thought pattern is God isn't a man or a woman.
Well, what is
That's
it?
my thought.
What is it?
I never view God as a gender. So I don't know. That's just my thought. You know, it could be a man if you want it to be a man. It could be a woman if you want it to be. If you want God to be a woman, but God is God.
But it
So
doesn't it refer to him as he?
but this is my thing, and this has always been my gripe with people that's deep in the church, is that they try to portray Jesus on us as a white man. So the person that rewrote the King James kidnapped it as a woman as being God. Because at that time, if a woman was God, that means they were the rulers. And with a man, they tried to make the man as quote unquote God as the rulers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been my gripe about the good book.
Okay.
Because,
And having said that, now let's get into the movie.
Mhm.
Let's get into the movie. Now,
So
at the
before
beginning,
you go on, Greg, just bring everybody up to speed because not everybody on the panel knows what the movie is.
well, Jocelyn just gave that synopsis, but the movie's called The Shack. It was made, like I said, in 2017, and here, look, here, damn it.
Not if we're gonna get cut off.
No, yeah, here. That's the picture. Okay, so The Shack was a place where evidently Mac, who's the lead character, Mac's daughter, wasn't it Missy or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Missy.
Yes.
She got abducted and taken supposedly taken to the shack and killed. All right.
Well, even before we go to Missy getting abducted, in the first quarter of the movie where they actually were in the car with her sisters. Well, no. Let's go back even further. When they were getting in the car and the wife said, I can't remember the actual term, I just drew a blank. She was like, have a little patience. Give me a little patience.
That was right before they took the picture, before they was going on the road trip.
Right.
Right.
Give me some patience. Hold on. Slow down. You ain't gotta always be in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
Mac was real. He was real sullen. You know what I'm saying? He had a nonchalant kind of attitude, and I guess it got even worse after his daughter got killed.
But even further back than that, though, think about in the beginning what was happening to him as a child. He was being abused as a child.
He was being abused, but what did he do to his father, though?
Didn't he poison?
And that was based out of the abuse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen the meme of a mother whooping a child, and it said, "Stop crying before I give you something to cry about."
Mm-hmm.
Then it shows the same little boy as a grown man not showing any emotion at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much one of the. He knew what he did. He never asked for forgiveness for what he did, and he held that bottled up inside of him.
Right.
So when he lost his daughter, we don't want to go to that part yet, but when that part happened in the movie, he really didn't know how to react to it.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, I'm going back to the very beginning too. Even before they even get to that point where they told us to happen, they said, "Give me some patience." And then the sister and the brother were in the car, and they were like, "No, we got to go by the falls. You got to go by the falls, and you got to tell her the story." That time,
Mm-hmm.
and she just kept saying, "Well, I don't understand. Why would she sacrifice herself for everybody else?"
Yeah.
Hey, before
We're gonna have to
on,
put somebody on mute.
hold on. Everybody that ain't talking, we got some stuff going on in the background. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead, Chris.
No, and just to add on to what Jocelyn was saying, the patience. That's why I'm very patient in life. The patience helps you get through situations. It helps you think about the beginning, the middle, and the end. Like we always talk about the caterpillar, the cocoon, the butterfly. It always gives you that point of view of thinking when it comes to having patience. Because in a battle, you just don't want to rush it. You know what I'm saying? You want to strategize your moves. And that patience came into play with the daughter. Because the daughter had the patience of, like when she said, well, if God is in us, why do we have to rush to get to church? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those type of things is us as adults having patience with our kids is one of the messages that it had in the movies, because us as adults can learn a lot from our kids also. You know what I'm saying? So on that part, that's where we at. Don't nobody say hi to Lou Diggs. You need to be on.
Yeah. But check this out, man. You know, and I liked the fact that throughout all of the mess that Mac went through in his childhood, he grew up to really go overboard, protecting his kids, loving his kids, and being an excellent father for his kids, despite what happened to him in his past, all of the beatings and all of that stuff, you know, the berating that his father would give him and this and that. Wasn't his father a preacher?
A deacon.
No.
A deacon or something like
No.
that, you know. He was in the church, but
you know that comes from breaking that curse. You don't want to do to your kids what was done to you. That's one of the reasons why a lot of parents today don't whoop their kids.
Mm-hmm. I have a question.
Mhm.
You think suffering makes people closer to God or causes them to distance themselves?
Distance, because their faith is not there.
But on the other side of that, okay, if
Mhm.
you're suffering, you know, and you know that God is the one that you're supposed to come to ask for help, shouldn't that draw you closer to him?
You want me to tell you why it draws you away? You remember, dang, we jumping all through. We just gonna jump all through the movie.
Yeah, we were talking. Come on, we ain't got to.
Yeah, right. We just gonna jump all through the movie. So you remember when they gave him the power of
Mhm.
God to
Mhm.
make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and he
Yeah.
couldn't make that decision. So he always was why questioning God. One thing you know supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and he was questioning
Why
why did
won't
you
you
take my
question
daughter?
God?
Oh,
Huh?
Why
come
won't
on.
you question God?
Why
I
won't you?
God all the time.
No,
hmm When it says
it
try
wasn't
the
what
spirit by the try the spirit by the spirit,
I
then
understand.
and he's given us choice, and having the conversation. It goes back to when Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" and they spoke, and then he flipped the script on them. He says, "Who do you say I am?"
Mm-hmm.
So in that, how do you perceive Jesus? How do you perceive God? Do you look at do what kind of conversations do you have with him? Because the bottom line is, if you don't question him, then you can't continue on your journey to walk into your purpose and your destiny and get the answers of what you need. So yes, why God am I going through this? That's
And
not
I
that's not
agree with
being
that.
that's not being disrespectful. He wants a relationship with us, and to have a relationship, there has to be some give and take in your relationship, in your physical relationship. Your wife, your woman, your boo or whatever, they ask you why. Your kids ask you why. That's not being disrespectful. It's show me, guide me. Why am I going through this, Lord? Why
Mm-hmm.
is it that the word says that the words that's in black and white that you had men pen on paper say one thing, but I'm not seeing it in my life. Why? And so we have to take, that's when we have to do that mirror piece. I didn't watch the movie, but
What?
I used to
Whoa, hold up.
he was the guy that did Shaq. He was on TVN. That's where I learned about the Shaq. And so it's really looking at a mirror, us looking at a mirror. How do we perceive God? Because I was listening and I really wasn't planning on saying anything. How do you perceive God? Because are we walking and practicing religion, or are we walking in and practicing, quote, kingdom? And that is, and I don't want to really get all deep and stuff because it can, go all the way. Sacred text is different from history text and from political text. And we messed up in the church. We messed up from the pulpit on back to the door, because we teach what we know, and we don't search the scriptures for ourselves. There's more than 66 books of the Bible. First of all, but based on where you are and what denomination, or just how in your search, the book of Josephus, they'll tell you that that's not a godly book, but that it is a godly book. The Septuagint is is godly. So therefore, we have pieces. We only have pieces of what they put together. The King James Bible was put together during King James's era.
Okay,
so when you start looking at stuff, it's really, God wants us to take a good inner look of ourselves, a mirror. And what kind of relationship do you have with him? And on those few things, yes, you do question. It's okay to question God.
Okay.
So then
I'm going to cut you off on this. I'm about to cut you off. That's great. That's great. We got to get back to the movie. We got to get back.
But let me finish the point that I was making.
Okay.
The point that I was making was, when he didn't question God about his life. He questioned God about, why did you take my daughter? That was his question. It had nothing to really do with him, because he was so overprotective of his children that he was like, well, if you are the protector and savior of all, why did you take my daughter? And that was when he started pulling away. Like when him and Papa was having a meal at the table, and he got up and stormed off. You know what I'm saying? That's where the question came into play.
With that being said, that other part of it, the relationship. So I get that connection, but then also what Greg calls as the forgiveness scene, when he put both of his kids right there and he said, well, you choose. Which one you gonna choose?
Right.
And we talk about relationship. If it was a situation and somebody stormed through the door right now with a gun, who we choosing? You know what I'm saying? Are you?
Well, you know what? Another thing it is, Josh.
What?
Everyone wants to have the power of God until you have the power of God. That's what that showed in that scene right there.
Break down that. Break that down.
So everyone wants to choose. Well, I'm not going to say choose. They want to say what you should be doing. Say how you should be doing it. Say how you should do this and how you should do that. But when it's coming down to really making a decision that God would have to make, they can't make that decision. And that's and that goes on more than anything else, really.
Well,
you know what? One of
that goes with that, Chris, and as heavy as the head that wears the crown.
That's facts.
But you know, one of the impressions that I got, and I don't know if you guys got the same thing from the movie, I got the impression that he didn't know that she was his Papa was his guardian angel, or he had guardian angels. That's the impression I got. There were guardian angels that watched over him, and Papa watched over him throughout his life. But I'm not sure that he realized that God was watching over his life in the beginning. Because if you remember the scene where he was beat by his father, and then she was on the porch to comfort him, I got the impression at that point that God was watching over his life, but he didn't realize it at the time.
Well, he was a child.
Well, he was a child,
He was a child at that time too. So I mean, you don't, because you got to remember in that scene, she said, "I just took a hot apple pie out the oven," and he was like, "No, I'm okay," and she was like, "It's not a question."
So why did he forget who she was?
Did he?
Because he was further away from her. That's what the question that you asked, does it bring you closer or take you away? Because
because I thought he would at least say, "You look familiar."
Right.
I thought he would make a
connection
that was the woman or whatever from his past, but he didn't mention it, so I was just like, okay.
But it's no different than when people say, "I can hear God doesn't talk to me anymore," because depending on where you are in your life and what you're doing, there is so much else going on that you don't hear his voice or her voice or its voice or whatever
you don't hear the voice.
You don't hear the voice. And if you think about yourself as you're growing up, church and you going to church because your parents are making you go to church. And then for some of us, there's a transition where I'm in the military. I can go to the chapel, but it ain't church. Ain't nobody here to make me go.
So why I'm gonna
go? And then you get to a point in your life where things happen in your life. And
they don't just happen.
It happened justly.
Yeah, so
but you start realizing that those mercies are real, because there's some situations and predicaments you should not have recovered from, and that's your path. That's when you start journeying back. And I think that the older we get, we recognize things. Our discernment is a lot better.
It's experienced.
Yeah. And so your journey goes back. So I think for the character, it was everybody. As a kid, we know who God is. We know, the church. We know this the religion. We know it's this is what we do because this is what my parents doing. Is we grow older and we get to think for ourselves. We choose to or not to, and then events happen where he, as one would say, it ain't nobody else you can turn to but God.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to ask real quick. So would y'all call this a religious movie or a spiritual movie, or one and the same?
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question to you, Greg, is between spiritual and religion.
Pardon me?
What's the difference between spiritual and religion?
Can't ask me that. I don't know.
You know.
I don't. I know. I can tell you this. I'm a very spiritual
person.
I'm not a religious guy. I'm a very spiritual.
Religion is pretty much human, man-made.
Religious is practices.
Behavior. It's like a code.
Behavior. Thank you. Behavior.
Yeah. It's pretty much like a code.
That's the second time you use that word.
Thinking, acting, behaving.
I mean, it's what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have so many denominations.
It's a taught behavior.
Terry, do you think it's the difference? There's a difference between religion and religious and spirituality.
There is. You're a spiritual being.
Mm-hmm.
You're not what has been created through time. When you start studying religion and when you start researching the denominations and how they came into being, you'll find that none of them were in existence.
Right.
They were created. Example, the Disciples of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Disciples of Christ denomination came out of the Church of Christ. The Church of Christ split the first time because of they felt that communion should not be given to sinners because they were practicing more of the law of the Old Testament than the total book, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Then another split took place from it went from the Church of Christ, to I forget the name of it, but they split because a piano was brought into the church, and that represented the saloons. And so the split then created the Disciples of Christ. If you study the Methodists, you have the Methodists, the United Methodists, the African Methodist Episcopal, the Christian Methodist Episcopal, the AME Zion, Baptist, Southern Baptist, Progressive Baptist, Baptist this, Baptist that, when Messianic Jews. When you start looking at all of that, and that's something that we aren't taught. I'm blessed that I got a chance to get some teaching because I come out of Jeremiah Wright's camp. I come out of Trinity United Church of Christ. So when you start studying and you start researching and going back into things, you even get a chance to understand the Muslim faith and how all that breaks down. So religion is man-made. Religion is man-made. No matter how you want to address it, it's man-made. It's not. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's man-made. But when you start researching how the Baptists split, the reason why the elements for communion are covered, everybody looks at that's a sacred piece. If you don't cover them, then you're sacrilegious. They covered the elements so that the flies wouldn't get on it.
Well, see, the reason I asked that question was because number one, I wanted some clarity. Okay, but I think the people who have watched this movie come out of it a little bit more aware of themselves, aware of people, and if you put yourself in his situation, which I don't know if I can put myself in that situation, but we've all had situations that could lead to something like that. Okay. What would we do? What would you do? And I know that as spiritual as I might be, I'm like Chris said, I'm going to question, why.
Yeah.
I'm going to question.
And
it's okay to question. It's okay to question. My question to you and to all of you in watching the movie, I've seen excerpts because I would watch him on TBN. My question to you is, since you actually got a chance to watch the movie from the beginning to the end, where did you find yourself in the movie?
All over it.
See, because our walk here, when we were put in this physical body, we have everything we need, but it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process, and it's in finding yourself. I just look at it. I choose to say it was his mirror. It was his mirror, and it was his time to take it and deal with his journey. Unfortunately, it took that incident to make him go deeper than maybe he would or wouldn't. Is that not what happens to us? We don't just, it takes something to jar us on something to have that aha.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with myself personally, I find myself in today's physical form. I mean, we all been through it, the whole movie, our whole lives. You know what I'm saying? But today, in the physical form, I see myself towards the end of the movie because I'm very understanding. I'm very forgiving. I'm very not pointing the finger at someone for something that they did wrong towards me.
So you're in an empathetic spirit.
Right.
I have a question. What do y'all think about the director's choice of a Black woman to carry the main role, even to Mac as a child, and even coming to Shaq initially as God?
It seemed a bit weird to me at first, but then it kind of sunk in. Like I said, God could be anything. God could be Black. God could be white. God is not a physical being, you know. So the fact that, and like I said, it was like I almost felt like this was Mammy in the movie, you know, at first. But then as I started understanding the whole purpose of the movie, it sunk in, you know, more acceptable, if that's the right term, but it just sunk in and it was okay. Whereas in the beginning, it kind of threw me a bit.
So in that,
yeah,
Octavia,
I'm gonna say that same thing. Yeah, it threw me. It took me a while before I could get used to Octavia Spencer even playing that role. I don't know if it was just if it was just because it was her. But it threw me off. Like I just at first I couldn't really get with it, but I don't know, because I always identify God as a man. I don't know. I just grew up that way, that God was, in my mind, he was a man. And so to have, you know, her take on the role, and then she's a Black woman, it just kind of threw me off. So, but I got used to it. I got better with it. But it just, at first, was kind of like, oh, okay.
Can I say this? Can I say this? This is what I took from the movie. So the part of the movie when she's on the porch with the apple pie, and the reason why he didn't recognize her when he saw her as an adult is because she was the physical form. She was the spiritual form in somebody else's body that he couldn't recognize who she was. But like I think Jocelyn said it, or you said it, Trish, that was the guardian angels that was watching over him. That's why he didn't recognize it, because the face that he was probably looking at the time wasn't the face that was Octavia Spencer.
At that time. That makes sense. Your
face is frozen on here, man. Why don't you pop off and come back on, okay?
All right.
Can I say something in reference to, I thought that was a very enlightened mindset to make a woman, a Black woman, at that, the God figure. If you look at the attributes of God, God has multiple names, and one of them is El Shaddai, which means the all-breasted one, the all-breasted one. So if you think about God as having a breast, that means God nurtures us, that we can suckle from him, from his wisdom. We can glean from him in terms of growing from infancy to adult. And then if you think about spirituality, Blacks have traditionally been the forerunners of what we consider to be some of the most spiritual people, even before we embrace Christianity, that goes back to multiple cultures, from voodoo to Obia to Orishas, whatever, you know what I'm saying, before we embrace Christianity. So therefore, if you look at it from a historical and a sacred, as a minister said, historical and a sacred perspective, and then even from social perspective, I think that was right on point to have a woman and a Black woman at that, to be the figure for God, because what he needed was not somebody who was a judge or authoritative figure in his life. He needed someone who would nurture him kiss his wounds, repair his soul, and heal his heart. That was the because God has attributes. He is a rock, but he's also a breast. You understand? He's authority, but he's also a lamb. He's a lion, but he's also a lamb. He's multifaceted. So what that man needed at that time was a nurturer in his life. So I thought that the gender was right on time, and I daggone shut felt like anything black, I think it's supposed to be right.
Well, but the director, that was good because it challenged your thinking. It challenged your
It
thinking.
did. And when did that movie come out?
2017.
And so that wasn't even thought of, back in 2013 to put somebody black in a
what
role
you have
like
to realize, what you have to realize is that in 2000, I want to say 2002, 2003, when they had Morgan Freeman play God in the movie with Jim Carrey, Bruce Almighty, as a black guy. That's when they first started to switch over the color. I'm not going to say the first, but that's when you really recognize it. You know what I'm saying?
But it was more acceptable as a man.
It was.
It was more acceptable.
It was, but just talking about black, period. But I mean, it's like Terry said, it challenges you to think outside the box of what they persuade us or try to mind control us of what a God or God was. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. And we talked about it yesterday. Where does humans come from? It comes from the woman. Even though the man placed the seeds there, it's birthed through the woman. So I had that question back since Boys in the Hood when they was talking about.
There we go with the ice cream.
That man, it gotta be, when they said how God is a man or a woman. That's when it first was really brought to mind thinking about it. And I just
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
I think that God encompasses the female and the male attributes equally. And based on, he said that I am that I am, and based on what you need from the I am at that time is what you get. A combination of a variative of what you need. So I think he's multifaceted
and
in
it's
terms
funny
of
that
his
you
gender.
Say because y'all remember the part of the movie when he meets Papa for the first time with I forgot the other two name at the time, and it was like, and then he asked the question, "Are you him?" And they all said yes.
Yes.
So I totally agree with what you just said on that
part.
And then they snickered.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did they bring him back to the shack though?
Because I think that they came back to the shack because even though he was at home when all the stuff started jumping off, all that stuff was still distractions. He needed to get him to him.
I think
to the essence.
I think they brought him back to the shack because that's where the tragedy happened. So to give forgiveness, you have to deal with the consequences of where it happened.
Where it is. Go to where it's at.
I was just getting ready to say, we have something in manufacturing called a root cause analysis.
Lean Six
Okay.
Sigma.
And you have to get to the root cause of the problem to fix the problem.
Right.
You can't.
That's where the problem happens.
You can't fix anything unless you get all the way to what the issue is. And part of his issue was how he felt about his father, which turned him into the man he became, the overprotective father. He had to go all the way back. If you notice, they had to take him all the way back to the root cause of his issues. And the root cause of his issues was his dad.
what's really interesting about that is I was sitting here, my mind is still trying to catch up to everybody, and I'm still at religious and spiritual, right? And we just talked about, Chris gave a wonderful breakdown of that whole being where you are type of concept. But then my mind went back to when he was at the church, and he went the religious
altar.
act, the religious act of going to the altar, and he confessed, right? But then he went home and his daddy beat him half to death because he went to the altar and confessed.
So here we go. So Canna, before I'm gonna lose it. Let me stop right there. So the good book says you shall worship no other God, no other idols. In other words, if you're gonna bring your problem to somebody, you bring it to me. You went to the altar to man. You didn't bring it to me. He went to the altar and he confessed to a man. He didn't go home and get on his knees and say, God, you know, my dad is beating on my mama. He's beating on me. He's got a drinking problem. Save me. He went to a man to save him.
But the thing
if you talk about religion and spiritual,
I get it, but he was doing what he was taught.
Exactly.
The religious act is he's a spiritual being, but he was acting in accordance of what he was taught. If you go to church, they tell you all the time, confess your sins, confess your sins, confess your sins. So he does not have, he's doing what he was taught. In the religious act of confessing sins is not go to the Father and let it all go. Go to the altar and tell the man. So he's acting according to the religion. And then the Father uses the religion to control him by beating him.
I understand that, but the purpose of the movie is to get us to understand.
Hold that thought, Jory. Hold that thought. We'll come back. Give me 15 seconds. We'll come back. It's Dope Living TV, y'all. We'll be right back. We are discussing The Shack. Y'all hold on.
Yo, what's up? We watching Dope Living TV. What you watching?
And you know, next time you want to put some water on somebody and get that spiritual feeling, put that cold water on them, all right? For real, put that cold water on. Go ahead, Joy Lynn.
So for me, the movie gave so many ways for you to understand what you've been taught in the religion, to convert you to be more spiritual and for you to think about it. So even though it depicted, you know, we understand it's a child, this is what he was taught to do. Watching it as an adult, for me, it triggered, yeah, I've been doing that all wrong. I've been going to the altar telling the pastor and I'm telling the wrong person. So that's how this is how it fed me. There was a lot of things that, you know, little subtle things, like when he was walking to the cave and he got to the rock. And I tell my daughters all the time, you believe in God, you can move mountains. And he put his hand
and put it on through.
And he walked on through.
Y'all see how it came from the snow to the and a shack to that house, and the, you know, so many metaphors were in there, so many statements.
Yeah, so it was, so to me the movie was, we want to take everything that was dumped into you, and get you to go into a place where you can understand what it really means.
So Mark was in a lot of pain, okay? And I guess he found his salvation, maybe I'll call it, his key to healing pain through Papa or his experience, okay? But what did he get from them? What was the key to healing his pain?
Forgiveness, understanding, and forgiveness,
and acceptance.
Yeah,
acceptance.
Yeah, he had to.
And
he had to
developing a relationship with God.
Yeah, he basically had to understand why it happened, accept why it happened, and give that person forgiveness for what they did to him as a child. That was the father's part of it.
And he had forgiveness for himself.
Yeah, he had to because what he did was he became the judge. That's why that part in the movie that I was talking about, when he had to make the decision, because he never confessed his sins for what he did to his father.
But I know that movie probably resonates with us all in a different way. Something that it brought to the forefront for me was the two different things that was very devastating in my life, and how I moved forward or didn't move forward with it. For instance, the first incident was when my first husband and I separated, when we divorced. My first husband is 17 years. And at that point, I just started wilding out. Like, it was, partying, drinking. I just started wilding out. But then I faced another devastation in my life again, where I lost my second husband to cancer. And I remember something that came in my head that said, okay, now you're at another fork in the road in your life. Which direction are you going to take this time? So in other words, I had the first devastation and I took this road, but now I'm at this same fork in the road. And what is my decision going to be this time as to how my life is going to formulate at this point? And I just took a totally different road at that point. I prayed and I really, really got into a good connection and a good relationship with God that helped me pull out of it in a positive way, as opposed to when I went through that devastation the first time and I went into a negative way. So that's kind of what the movie brought to the forefront for me, the two different really life-changing things that were in my life, and how what I chose at that point.
Let me ask you this, Gina, because those two scenarios are two different situations. Like the first marriage was probably because of hurt, and the second one, marriage, the way it ended, was probably because of a grieving process, that you needed more God with the second one because it didn't end in a divorce.
I needed God in both situations.
Well, but what I'm saying is the situation of the departure was different, because the second one was a grief because of him passing. The first one was probably being hurt because of how the relationship is.
It really wasn't. It really wasn't. The first one was a grief too, because I chose to walk away from the relationship. I chose to walk away from the marriage because of the things that were going on in the marriage, but it wasn't a hurtful relationship. It wasn't at all. As a matter of fact, my first husband was a very good husband and father and provider. But the circumstances that caused me to say, I got to leave this marriage, it was not because of hurt or because, there was any infidelity or anything like that. It was me looking at my kids and saying, I need to get out of this so that they don't think that this is the way, they don't accept this when they grow up to be adults. So
Gina?
when it comes to grief, I grieve for both of them. I grieved the first time, and I was at a point in my life where I didn't know what direction to go in. It really, in both situations, I had to make a decision if I was going to take the high road or the low road. The first time I took the low road, but then I was at that fork again, and it really did. It was clear. It came to be very clear, and what came to me was, what direction are you going to take this time in your life? So I think what the movie really brought to the forefront for me is that first situation kind of got me prepared for the second and how my life was going to formulate.
And also, I don't know if you all noticed, but there's a process that you have to go through. You can't skip the steps. And I don't know if y'all recognize the process. So, you know, it was the initial act of the daughter. You're scared. You find out that she's passed. And so when he gets back to the shack, he's angry. He's angry. Then the gentleman shows up, and now he's curious, but he's still angry. So there's a process he has to go through, and it's laid out before us. You're angry, then you get to you know, one of the most outstanding things that she said was, "I've been wanting to see your face." And that's one of the things that we as carnal say is, you know, I just want to see how he looks. I just want to see God's face. I just want to just behold him and see how he looks. So we angry, then we question why. We still angry, but now we at Chris's process now. I want to know why. If you so powerful, why are you doing this?
Well, see, here. It's a good thing you said that too. Well, it leads to my question, and Jocelyn, I'm gonna let you get to yours. My son asked me. He said, "Dad, why do, you know?" And this is some time ago, and it's prevalent now. Why do bad things happen to good people? You know, why does God allow these bad things to happen to people?
It ain't me. You know, evil is here.
But see, what the thing is this, you know, and it's a good question, okay? And to me, I think the answer would be because, number one, God doesn't discriminate, okay? What happens is, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not always right. He wants to teach us a couple of things. He wants to see our faith. He wants us to know that, hey, even though bad things are happening, do you have faith in what I have promised you? Okay, have faith. Number two, if you know, it's a question of, are we always mired in the what have you done for me lately, or what are you going to do for me now when I'm at that point, as opposed to thinking about all the blessings that he has given you. Okay, you could be at the worst time in your life, okay, and you can still look up, okay, and he's there. All right, you may not feel it, but you have to have that faith that he is still there.
So it's still a process.
It's a process.
So you're angry, you're asking questions, then now you want understanding, and then you go through the steps of grief, you know, the acceptance of it all, you know, the forgiveness of it all. And you know, and I agree with Gina, you know, every relationship that ends, I think we all grieve it in some kind of way. Some people grieve it differently, you know. Some people shut down. Some people don't want to be bothered. Some people go out and party. Some people got one coming in the door while the other one going out the other. I'm just saying, you know, but it's still a grieving process because you're not over it. You have to forgive yourself for whatever part you played in it.
Are we wrong?
Sometimes when we're going through we grieve our relationship with God. I think that religion and the church and religion in days of yore was always talking about God is good and he's good all the time. And that's how we were acclimated to believe that God is good and he's good all the time. And they didn't put any meat and potatoes on that plate with us to let us know that, yes, he's good and he's good all the time. But even in his goodness, his permissive will allow you as a good person who's doing good things to go through some bad times. And when this happens, this is maybe should be your perspective and so on and so forth. So if you are God is good, he's good all the time, and you don't have any depth to this realization of how the depth of your relationship with God should be, what is his relationship to man, then you become angry and despondent with God because you were taught that he was this thing when in fact he's a myriad of things, and you have to understand really what Romans 8:28 is, that everything is going to work together for your good. For we know, you have to know that first, because it's the statement starts, for we know, but everybody don't know. So if you don't know, then you have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, kicked to the side, despised, left alone, abandoned, rejected, and therefore and then you're in a place where you're really sorrowful that you even bought into this thing of called quote unquote God or religion, when that was never what you should have bought into. And sometimes people wonder why people in the Caribbean and places like Africa who have very little materialistically, have went through such hard times, can worship God with such fervor and passion because they get it. They get it where we might not get it in a lifestyle where we have been taught from a place of materialism and fluff, and how we have made God a Santa Claus, and we're dealing more with religion and checking off the boxes. If you do this, he gonna give you that, and it was never that.
Well, the reality of it all is we're all walking around here, and our name is Joe.
Joe.
That's the end of the story. My name's Joe. Your name Joe. Your name Joe. Your name Joe. Your name Joe.
Your name Josephine.
But Dr. Jory, with Job, though, even though we might be walking around with Job, we still gonna have some of the hurt that Job had, because if you remember,
but what I'm saying is, and it goes back to Gina.
Dang,
all of us, he's not going to stop what's going on.
I'm talking about what he lets go on, because if you remember, the conversation was between Satan and God. Have you considered my son? Have you considered my servant Job? And the Satan's like, oh, you got a hedge of protection around that fool. That's the only reason why he served you. Take that hedge of protection off him. And I bet you he won't serve you like that. Now, Job had not done. He was a man without fault, without sin, in terms of how we see a man to be. And he was a rich man. And at the end of the day, Job got pissed off. He like, dang, you know what I'm saying? Dude, I done did everything you say do. Why you let them take my kids? Why you let them take my businesses? Why you letting them touch my health? Why is this? And God didn't get mad. Job snapped off on God. God listened to Job. And at the end of the day, after he snapped off, because he let him have a good therapeutic counseling moment, then he said, were you there when I put running in the seat of the Mustang? Were you there when I did this? And were you there when I did that? And at the end of the day, he was like, dude, I got you. Matter of fact, you don't need that help, because she the one who told you to curse God and leave me. Right? Die.
There you go.
So he said, I'm going to give you double portion.
Double your portion.
I'm going to give it back. I'm going to give you beauty for ashes. I'm going to give you everything, because sometimes the process that we have to go through to get what we really need to get to, we don't want to do that. In our humanity, we don't want to do that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. God understands that. And I hate when people feel like God can't be challenged. I mean, people challenge him all the time. He lets you challenge him to a point. There's a difference between challenge and disrespect.
Yeah.
There, you know what I'm saying? What Job's wife wanted him to do was curse God and die. I'm like, no, I'm gonna curse him, but I'm gonna go off on him. I'm gonna curse him, but I'm gonna go off on him.
So with that being said, go back to Mac. So Mac, Missy's gone. Missy then got kidnapped, and the oldest daughter is walking around with this heaviness because she said if she had only not stood up in that boat, right? The boat wouldn't have been tipped over. He wouldn't have ran out there to save them, and Missy wouldn't have gotten taken. So that's A. We got this daughter over here who blaming herself. Then over on this side, you've got the father who's innately blaming himself and has quarantined himself from love from his wife and the other people. And then you got this. He's just doing his thing. He like, they ain't checking for me, so I'm gonna have fun. But the bottom line of it is that this is life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in the car and I'm cussing you out because you just cut me off. Right? But at the same time, the person that cut me off just got a call that said their mama just had a stroke. Then I get to the restaurant and all I said was, hey, how can I help you? And you just straight cussed me out. I'm just trying to do my job.
Word.
How did the director use Mac as the pawn and all of this stuff? All the balls are still going on. But how did this director use Mac to bring some, I guess, symmetry or some balance to all these different lives?
So for me, that's how I should put my camera back on.
I'm even going to put it solo.
I think that Matt was the nucleus of the issue, and had he handled it differently, his daughter would have handled it differently because he would have been able to communicate with her. I think that because he was in such a dark place and couldn't be reached, she fed off of it also. And I mean, he can't carry her cross, he can't carry her burden, but he could guide her to a place where if the load is not as heavy.
So why did they make this?
He's not going to be able to take that from her. But he withdrew from her. So in a way, as a child, I would think my daddy blamed me. Even though he may say he don't, but his actions say otherwise.
Right. This is what I took from it. The anger and the frustration that Mac had. Because what we failed to realize in the whole second part, 3/4, but the 1/4 for the part of the movie is how everything led up to the last 3/4. The truck accident. So the truck accident was really out of not, how can I put it, not giving up and not accepting that his daughter wasn't here.
But Chris, do you know that the truck accident happened after?
It happened before.
No, it didn't. It happened after.
It happened before.
It happened before.
It happened before.
It happened before.
Y'all, if you read this, and what I did was I read some stuff too. It happened after.
Read the book.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's in the book then, because
it happened. That's how the whole.
Let me mute, Tori. Hold on.
Yeah, that's how the whole. Crazy. That's how the whole.
Yeah, that's how we ended up with the whole it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz because he was
unconscious,
maybe in a comatose type
But
of situation.
but I'm gonna find that passage while y'all talking, and I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, you do that. You mute yourself.
Yeah.
You know what?
You started it. I keep telling you, don't come to me unless I call you.
I think
Greg, what are you saying, Greg? That the truck accident happened after?
Y'all remember
what?
he fell, okay?
No, that was the part where he woke up. He woke up from the concussion of the failure.
The movie did it, okay? He woke up from that accident.
No, so you got to remember the concussion is what the letter came into play for.
Mm-hmm.
He woke up from that.
Do you remember what's his name said that you never made it to the shack, but
exactly,
but
that was before.
But you notice he was debating that he did. Okay, I'm gonna find it for y'all.
Yeah, that's why he said he never made it to the shack because the accident happened before he went out there. But that whole time is pretty much what he was thinking about, what he was going to do once he got to the shack.
And y'all tell while I'm looking, y'all tell Dr. Jory Lee, and I'm gonna press his stomach, make the hair go back in, Barbie. All right, so look,
Well, she made some good points. She made some good points.
I don't care about
we're talking. It's trust, faith, and believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process for the trust, the faith, and the belief. It is a process. Life is a process.
It is.
Life is not just a journey. It's a process. But when has something in your life happened? You dealt with something and you thought that you have totally resolved it. And then something happens and you get that feeling, oh, I thought I really dealt with this, because it jarred you and took you all the way back there.
Ooh, yes, ma'am.
That
all the way back.
The residue. You know, that the residue is on you, but it makes you feel like you never really dealt with the symptom. I'll just say the symptom. How many times is something in your life that something happened to bring something to the forefront that you have buried?
Yes.
And so when you look at when you I'm listening to you all because you've seen the movie from the beginning to end, and just like I said, seeing some of it on TBN, the director, I don't know where they were spiritually. I don't know how they hear from God and stuff, but it sounds like they were able to do a miraculous thing because the movie makes you look at every facet of life, every facet, and even dealing with some things in him going to the shack, him interacting with Papa, I remember when I saw the excerpt that he was on I think, was it the river or the stream? He was sitting there. Okay, having to be there and having to deal with those moments. And as Dr. Jory said, okay, we're all Job. Yes, we are. We're all Job, but we're also Abraham. We're also Joseph
and James.
We're also Luke and John.
Yep.
And we're also Jesus.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to your aha moment, how did we get there? Our journeys may be different and have some similarities, but what is the ultimate? What's the bottom line? What's the journey? At the end of the journey, what should happen?
Right.
Hey, I got the answer, y'all. Let me read it to y'all.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Everybody, before you read it, is it from Wikipedia?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
After spending the weekend at the shack, Mac leaves and is so preoccupied with his thoughts that he is nearly killed in an automobile accident. Are we finished?
Yeah, finish.
No, I don't want to finish. Anyway, check this out.
Finish.
Like we said,
Because
after his recovery, he realized that he did not, in fact, spend the weekend at the shack, but that his accident occurred on the same day that he arrived at the shack.
right on his way to the shack.
Yeah, you guys are right. I'm wrong.
That hurt, didn't it?
No, it didn't hurt. Hey,
No,
John,
it
you
happens.
know me better than anybody, just about except for Chris and Jim. You know it don't hurt me to be wrong. I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
So,
Jory Lane, you were right, and I apologize. Thank you.
what I was saying about the accident was, it's pretty much like going to a coma and going towards the light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that whole process was.
Mm-hmm.
Of him going to the light, seeing Papa, which was the black woman that was God.
Yeah.
Seeing the Middle Eastern man, which was Jesus. And seeing the Asian woman, which was the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And
Hey, look,
that was.
go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say that was the whole process. Because you remember him coming out of it, he comes out of it as a better person. During that whole time, he goes through the trials and tribulations of confronting what happened, dealing with what happened, and accepting and forgiving of what happened. And he came out a better person.
And see, that's what it's all about. See, everybody has to understand when you watch this movie, life is short, and every day, every single moment that you have, you got to choose to. I mean, you can either choose to live in that pain, live in that darkness, or you can choose to live in the light. God has given us the freedom to choose that, and whatever we believe or don't believe, we got a choice. All right, you don't have to stay in the pain and suffering. You can get it, you can be in it, and then get out of it. Okay, but you know, that's just me.
You know, one more thing that this movie, not to cut you out, Jocelyn, one more thing that this movie brought to my attention is how humans judge.
Talk about it.
That was another part of the movie. So I'm always going to go because that was the best part of the movie when he had to make the decision.
Right.
And that,
there were no midgets in the movie, no small people. They got it. You have to be.
I want to go here, and this is probably one of the most challenging parts of the movie. When they woke up that morning, and she woke him up, and she said, "You got to get up," and then they transitioned to the man and he asked her, "Well, you not going with me? You don't need me today." And then the man came in, and he had to bury the baby. And I think that was a day of reckoning. That they took him through all of the stages and all of the stripping. And for me, my saying, things don't just happen, they happen justly.
That's my saying.
Okay. But in that moment, with everything stripped away, he had to look at what it is. You know what I'm saying? I try really hard not to label things good or bad. They're experiences that build us, that make us. And just that whole experience of, you now have to acknowledge, yes, this baby is not present, and we have to give her proper burial. That's challenging. Whether or not you've lost a child, whether or not you have ended a marriage, whether or not, I mean, I've been in a situation where I've attempted suicide and still woke up the next morning and had to face that, damn, really? I'm still here? But in that reckoning, being still here, you understand that there is purpose in everything. And regardless if we label it good, bad, or indifferent, like, yeah, it's about how we've been, the religious side of it, call it all joy, but understanding those are words, but understanding that you have to feel it. And there's something greater on the other side.
Absolutely.
I think that the director beautifully displayed how a person is delivered.
That's a huge point right there, Dr. Jory.
Expound, Dr. Jory.
That's a huge point. You're absolutely right.
He showed the process and how someone is delivered. And my saying is, you don't know you delivered until you've been delivered.
Until you've been delivered. And I think that's the overall message in the whole story. Okay, you know, the point of it is, how do you get out of it? How do you get delivered, as you said, from darkness? You know, that's huge right there. Thank you for saying that.
I still want more. I want more meat, though.
You say what?
I need more meat. Y'all, you given the description, how someone knows that they're delivered. But in your interpretation, how did this movie explain that, deliver that?
Well, you see, the man was Mac was all the way gone. He didn't trust nobody but his family, of course. But he didn't trust anybody. He was angry. It was a sullen type of anger, but he was angry. He was more revengeful. He wanted revenge. All right. He wanted to make sure that he exacted some type of revenge on this guy. Okay. We never saw who the guy was. All right. We never saw who the guy was. So he was delivered after he met, you know, that experience at the shack. He was unconscious, of course, but he got that experience at the shack. So
he was at peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
he never reached that point until he got to the shack.
So I guess my mother always said you can't define a word using the word. So I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna strip it all the way down. What are y'all referring to as being delivered? What do y'all mean delivered? Break it down for me.
Coming out of one situation into a better situation. Well, that's my. You ask me what I say. What I want. You can't say no. And you know,
I'm just saying it's still not.
Can I answer her? Chris talked about him being in a dark place. And so spiritually, we have all been in dark places. You don't necessarily know that you're almost at the dawning of light until you start walking across that threshold and you see sun rays. But the process was the whole journey from the accident, from the daughter, it actually happened before him coming to reckoning with the daughter's death. He had to reconcile with the death of himself, his childhood, all of that, in order to encompass a total healing and acceptance of I can't change this, and I gotta breathe, and I gotta accept, and I gotta, you know what I'm saying? It's little tiny decision after decision to walk toward the light, to embrace the light instead of going deeper, darker into the sunken places. The more you go, every step you go toward the sunken place, you're going deeper into the sunken place. Every step that you acknowledge this, you accept that, you forgive this, you allow, just a pass on this and that, even though he will probably know who the person that murdered his daughter is. He's like, this too, when people can get to this too as well with my soul, this too is going to be okay with my spirit, man. I am more than a conqueror. You know what I'm saying? There becomes a peace at that point that goes beyond the understanding. You know how they talk about in the Bible, peace that goes beyond the understanding. You can't even understand exactly what it was that got you out of what you were in. It's just that you just took little baby steps that were ordered toward the light. And then there you were.
Yeah, in this movie, that part came into play when he got out the boat and walked on the water.
Yep.
That's where that part that you're talking about right now came into play. Because one, he didn't believe so he got his faith back. Once he got his faith back and walked on water across with the Middle Eastern guy that was Jesus, he pretty much started opening up for the forgiveness and an acceptance part. And then with him,
the reason why I was challenging y'all so hard on that is because people will use words and they'll say, "Oh, you got delivered," and then especially in our culture, we get caught up in the energy, the song and dance, but we don't fully have an understanding or a grasp of the unveiling, the ripping away, the breath, the freshness, the honest that comes out of it.
The peeling off of the layers of the onion.
Yes.
The layers.
When you come home after a long day, you take that bra off.
Yes,
That
Lord.
unveil.
I don't know that feeling. I don't know that
Lord.
feeling.
But when you talk about taking the bra off, you don't just whip the bra off. Even anything in our life is as we are beginning to be layered, or we're getting to be delivered. It's lifting your hand. It's reaching toward the back of your back. It's going underneath your blouse. It's one finger on the hook. It's the second. It's digging deeper because that one won't unhook. It's the process of just by faith moving, not feeling sometimes, and not necessarily seeing it, and just breathing in the essence of what you're going through and engaging and focusing as you do things in increments. Like how they say, how do you swallow the elephant? It's one bite at a time. And that's what faith is. One bite, one decision, one second, one order step, even in the midst of the chaos in the sunken place.
Mm-hmm. So because
that's deliverance. That's also deliverance. Because deliverance takes a place. It's many forms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of deliverance. When you did the illustration on the bra, each step that you took, that was another form of deliverance.
Mm-hmm. We know you don't understand that, Chris.
So release it, Jesus, release it, let it go, let it breathe, let it breathe, let it hang, let it go.
So,
Chris, can I ask you a question? And I don't really know. You don't have to answer it.
Yes, he does.
9 times out of 10, I'm gonna try to answer to the best of my ability.
Okay. When you dream, do you remember your dreams?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember most of them. I remember 90% of them.
Okay. Because you are a seer.
Because some way in the future,
you are a prophet.
Because somewhere in the future it happens, and I'll be like, "This is deja vu. This has happened before."
She on here. See. Yeah, I was like, she on here.
Yeah.
Because you are a seer and you are a prophet. And eventually you'll have your shack experience.
I believe I've had it. That's why I'm in the place I am right now. Because I lost my daughter back in 2005, 2 weeks after she was born. So I believe I had it. That's why I'm in the place I'm at now.
Yeah, that started you on your journey, but you will have your shack experience, because the shack experience is not just all. It is losing something and some things.
Right. And I lost a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it prepares you for what's coming.
I agree. Into existence on it called you out of the spirit and put you into the physical body to walk here on earth and to walk in the divine purpose that he has for you, to help to release some other people that will be able to walk into their purpose. You are a seer. You are a prophet. If you don't journal your dreams, I would encourage you to journal your dreams and ask the Holy Spirit to lead you to the scripture. Ask the Holy Spirit to be your teacher.
Hey, Chris,
definitely do that.
Holy Spirit to be your teacher and you're a prophet. Can you give me the numbers for the Powerball Saturday?
See.
If I believe,
I want 10%.
Look,
I want you to add 10% into
you know I'm a cemetery. Come on.
Look, if I believed in the lottery, I probably would give them to you. I don't believe in the lottery.
Hater.
I just believe
you just don't want me to. You just don't want me.
No, it's not that. It's just other ways you can get it.
fine.
Well, my poll days is over, so just give me the numbers.
So I just want to say, well, yes, I do. Things don't just happen, they happen justly. I don't remember the discussion that we were having that day that prompted me to challenge everybody to partake in the challenge of watching or reading this book. I think it was almost a month ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what the discussion was. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks to challenge, to ask everybody to participate in this discussion. And I'm gonna tell you some of the things that were discussed. I'm about to watch it again when I get off.
Well,
Just solidify.
like I told everybody before you got on, Josh. You know, even though I watched it when you told us to watch it up until yesterday, I watched it probably 7 times.
Wow.
I watched it 5 times today from 8 o'clock a.m. to 10 minutes before we came on. I watched it 5
Seriously?
times. Yeah.
Wow.
So you know what's interesting, that even though this particular shack was based on the death of a child, but you can put a straight underline right there, and the shack could be just about anything.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is, no doubt.
And so I think it's important that, you know, as we talk about, you know, the shack and its meaning and its purpose and deliverance and all those things, is that you can put just about any affirmity in line in that slot and go to the shack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask Chris a question? Chris, I've only seen you a few times on Dope Living, but you strike me as a man whose time is very important to you. That you have time to waste, and you don't waste time with stuff that you feel is irrelevant. Am I correct about my assumption? Okay.
Yeah.
So for you have to watch this at least 12 times in the matter of 2 days. Can you tell me the heart of and the root of what made you do that repetitiously?
My thing was every time I watched it, the first couple of times it was on, I was listening, I wasn't looking. You know, it's like listening to an audio book. And then something happened and I looked and it catch my attention. So today I really just watched it all the way through over and over and over again. And I caught something different every time. Something resonated with me differently every time I watched it.
Was it healing you? Did you feel a healing, a bibliotherapy coming out of it?
Yeah. And it was more for not me, but to give advice to others on how to heal. That's where it really came from. Like and Greg could tell you this, like me, I'm very laid back, nonchalant. I didn't used to be this way. I didn't used to be this way. I was very boisterous, outgoing. Even though I was humble, I was still outgoing. You know what I'm saying? And right now I'm at the point of my life where I'm pretty much laid back, don't need to be seen, and more of a listener than I am a talker.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear him in the book of Isaiah. I see you reading the book of Isaiah. And then when you finish reading the book of Isaiah, then you go into the epistles. And because you'll find Jesus a lot in Isaiah, that prophetic voice, that prophetic voice that God is giving you is a nurturing voice. We say advice, but it's a nurturing voice, because your words are powerful. You have to be very careful what you speak and say, because it happens quickly.
I've been told that.
And,
I've
and
been told that.
so you have to be very, oh Jesus, you have to be very careful
Mhm.
On your speaking and guarding your thoughts and your heart. Yes, you watch The Shack over and over again for that healing, but the healing is going to help you help others to heal. What is so interesting, we know that nothing happens by chance, that God has already ordained everything. And it's just a matter of us accepting it and walking in it. Everybody on this line, on this talk, has that healing power. In The Shack, the I'm gonna call it the professor. I'm just being funny right now with Jocelyn, the professor, because of that leadership quality that she has, and knowing how to take a little bit of nothing and making it into something that was able to allow the Holy Spirit to use her to challenge each one of you to go and look at the movie. For some, it was to go into that hidden chamber in your heart that you haven't released to him, that needs to be released to him, so that he will be able to get the fullness out of you that he needs to get out of you. For some, it is for you to take off the shelf some things that you perceived dead, and now to resurrect them, so that you will be able to move forward. So those that are connected with you will be able to walk into their purpose and their destiny. And no matter how we say it, or how we perceive it, the bottom line is that God is calling each and every one of you in this COVID. I encourage all of you to go study the 10 plagues. Study the 10 plagues, and then understand why the 10 plagues had to happen for the things to manifest into what they manifested in. There's, other than Gina and Valerie, I don't know if there are any other authors on this line, but Dr. Lynn, I don't know what your profession is, but what I do know is that there's some curriculum that the world is waiting for you to write, for you to put some things in place that need to be put in place, so that people will stop being messed up in your profession.
Thank you. I receive all that.
I receive all that.
It's prophetic.
I want to do a Jocelyn. I want to challenge you all, because this is something that's stirring in me. We all talk about, going to heaven, and how do you picture yourself being in the presence of God? Because he wasn't fazed. He wasn't fazed at all. He was like, oh, so you the one who let this happen to my daughter? What do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? You know that old thing we used to talk about, the people who come knocking on your door, the Jehovah's Witness, and they say, well, if God came to your house today, would you be ready? How do you see yourself in the presence of God? Do you see yourself, stretched out? Do you see yourself with your head hung low in shame? Do you see yourself saying, I walked in the purpose. I used my gifts. You didn't have to take them from me. I used my gifts, God. I used them. I did everything. Whatever you gave me, I used. How do you see yourself in the presence? Because
that's real interesting, because there are a lot of times when, my prayer is simply this: Lord, I just pray that I'm a good steward over what you have bestowed upon me. I don't want to ever swindle his stuff. because none of this stuff is mine. It's all his, and it's on loan to me. I firmly believe that he predestined this moment and any other moment that has come into my existence for a purpose, and it's all working together. So all is just to be a good steward because he saw fit to give me the talent, skills, and abilities that he bestowed upon me, and for me to use those blessings to edify his kingdom. And so, if anything, it's a spirit of gratitude. It's a spirit of appreciation. That's my biggest. If I were gonna pick an outfit, that's what that outfit would be.
Okay, that's what you be cloaked in.
Gratitude, gratitude, and just gratitude. Thanking him that he trusted me with what he has trusted me with, and that I have made him proud using those skills, talents, and abilities. Because one thing's for certain, two things for sure. He's given us all what he's allotted for us. So can't nobody take nothing from me that wasn't meant for me. And I often think about my older brother. He has a child that is a special needs child. And I always said that he gave it to the right kid because my brother has the patience and the money to handle that situation. Whereas what God gifted me, my brother wouldn't have been able to handle. And so
Okay,
I knew what he was giving to each of us when he gave it to us.
Chris.
I was going to ask you, can I get back to you with my answer?
You know what?
When that time comes, I'm not going to say I have my head down, but it's going to be very humbling for me because I've done more right than I've done wrong in my lifetime. I've helped more people than I haven't helped people in my lifetime. And the skills and the abilities that he's given to me, I believe when that time comes, it would be fulfilled that I use those skills and those gifts till I couldn't use them anymore.
So well done, good and faithful servant. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Greg.
We're waiting.
Oh, I had to get ready. Y'all had to excuse me. I had to step off for a second. So your question was, how would I be clothed or cloaked when it's that time for me to meet God, correct?
Yeah, what do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive yourself would be in his presence?
I would be extremely, like Chris said, extremely humbled. All right. I would be number one, honored to be there, but I'd be humbled. And I would like to just ask questions of him. You know, if I made it this far, what were the qualities that you saw in me to allow me to be in your presence? You know, is there any, I want to know, is there anything that I could have done better? You know, I'm like Chris, I've done more good than bad. And the bad stuff I did, it wasn't to a point of hurting anyone per se. It was to the point of not really acknowledging people. You know what I mean? Not giving them the respect that they deserve. Right? When I got to a certain level in my career, I became arrogant. I was doing different things. Okay, but I would like to know what God really thought of me. You know.
Okay.
Jory, what about you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you sure I'm supposed to be here? No.
I'm with you on that though, for real.
I would probably hang my head because I know I'm not worthy.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. I would hope that I am doing and I am walking in the purpose that he has set for me. I feel that I've done more good to people than I've done harm, but I would probably hang my head because I know that I am not even worthy. So that's me.
Trisha, what about you? Valerie, what about you?
I think that when I get there, I just want to lay in his arms. I just want him to rock me. I just want him to just love on me in real time because he has showed me so many aspects of himself here. Because life with no crystals there, as the writer says. And really, in terms of sanity, health, grief, uh, every part of the human existence that we all go through and are going to go through. I think the only way that I've been able to get through it, even when there was a time, and there was a time that I did lose my faith. I lost my faith, and I said to him in a challenge and anger that if you're real, and you said if you got the faith of a mustard seed, well, buddy, that's about all I got. And that was real on what I said. And he didn't fail me. He did not lie. It was as he said, and I'm serious. That's about all I had. And I always think about that because yeah, it could have went left with me in terms of my relationship with him because of life circumstances, because my shack experience. And so it gave me more fervency. But dealing with folks, you know what I'm saying, for him to help me deal with folks, people are trip. It's just a sustaining power. And I love his essence. And I just want to be there. I will be so humble. I'm like all of you all because I know I had my ups and my downs. And any moment, I could have been lost in something. I don't see God as a big bad wolf. You understand? I'm talking about in terms of my best life, in terms of the best version of myself. I could have been left in the worst version of myself. And I know that he said, even if I make my bed in hell, he's there with me. I realize and I understand that now. But to me, he was so endearing and loving and giving to me and mine that he pulled me up out of some bad places emotionally, psychologically, mentally. Even it wasn't things that I did to myself, but just how I see man's inhumanity with man. I have worked law enforcement for years, and some of the things I have seen are mind blowing. And when you try to piece it together, well, why did this happen? What does this mean? Blah blah blah. And so, for him to not let my mind break, and for me to have a better love for him on this side, I'm just so grateful that if I get in his presence, if he would just let me, like the lady say, be at the hem of his garment, and if I could just just lay my arms around his knee, you know what I'm saying? If I don't get to see his face, I'll be happy.
We got a few more minutes. Gina, what about you?
Well, I would be cloaked in gratitude because I know I've been blessed 1,000 times over. And I'm with Val. I know he brought me out of some dark places. One experience that I had when I had been out of the church for a very long time. And so my sister and I had decided that we were going to join the same church. So we were going, I would say, church hopping. We would visit different churches throughout the city. And every time we visited a church, there was the pastor had the same scripture. It was Matthew 19:21. And if you guys know that scripture talked about the rich man, and Jesus told him to if he wanted to be complete, he had to sell his belongings, sell his possessions. And every time I went to church, that was the sermon that was being taught. And so I kept questioning God, like, what is this message that you're trying to give to me? Are you saying to get rid of all of my belongings? You can't be telling me to sell everything that I own. And so for a long time, I kept asking that question, probably over a year. I kept asking that question. And I really feel like I got to a point where I understand the message that he was putting before me. It wasn't to give away my possessions, but it was to give away my possessions, which is my caring soul, my giving soul. And so that's what I have been pouring out into people, even with the authors that I work with, the people that I come in contact with, whatever I can do to give and help them. I don't care what it is. I try to do it. Mm-hmm. And so that when that day comes, I want to be on my knees at his feet, cleaning his feet and just showing complete gratitude.
Absolutely. Trisha Lynn, what about you?
I would probably have to say gratitude as well. I didn't grow up in church, and I kind of drifted in and out of going to church through my years, and I kind of drifted away a few years back again because I was in a situation that I didn't want to be in, and I felt that the church teachings was teaching me to stay in something that I did not want to be in. And so I drifted away again. But I've slowly been coming back. And, God has put me in some positions and helped me to come out of a lot of, I was in a dark place for a while. And, I'm starting to come out of it. And God has been there for me the entire time. And I want to say watching that movie, The Shack, resonated with me because you have to, teaching you about forgiveness and, things that happened in our past. I think a lot of us were scarred from things that happened when we were kids, we were younger, and we brought it to our current relationships or in relationships and things, and we didn't resolve things. And so right now I'm at a place in my life where I am resolving things. I'm forgiving myself for things. And I know if it wasn't for God getting me to this place right now, I don't know where I would be.
Absolutely. Really Terry, we got 3 minutes. What about you?
I am fine. I have nothing to say, but this has been a blessing.
Well, all right there.
Yes, it has.
It has been a blessing. And
I just got. I don't know if I should say it now. Wait till we go off there.
Now.
No, it ain't that type of saying.
Okay. You got 2 minutes.
Is it y'all know who Tiny Lister is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he passed away today.
No, didn't know that.
Yeah, I just saw that.
That was the text I got. And, when people text me, I had to go online and check to see if it's real.
Right.
That's sad.
Debo, rest in peace, man, for real. Hey, Dr. Joy Lynn, that was a great question to close out the show. I thank you for that. All right. Everybody that's on here, if y'all want to stay on afterwards, that's fine. Okay. Hey, look, we looked at the movie The Shack and we discussed it. Okay. And, here's 3 things that I think we could take from it. Number one, if you remember, there was a line in there. Well, like this, God can be anything that you need him to be. There was a line that said, I know you needed a father today, so I came to you as one. All right. God can be anything that you need him to be. Forgiveness heals, and understand this, above all things, God sees the big picture. All right. So, Jocelyn, thank you for bringing that movie to us. I never would have known about it Honestly, I never would have known about it. Dr. Joy Lynn, you came in today, girl, for real. I appreciate you came in today. Thank you. Gina, as always.
French toast on me, girl.
That's because I got some French toast coming to me Saturday morning.
That's right. That's what's up. Valerie, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. Know, anytime you need me, you know I'm here for you. Chris Mills, man, you know,
always.
I ain't even thinking about you. Terry, very inspirational. I appreciate you so very much. All right. Trisha Lynn, you're going to be in my next film. You already know this. So we've already discussed it. So it's a good thing. Hey, look, this is.
And I just want to say, Terry, Val will be on tomorrow. We're going to continue the subject that we've been talking about, abuse, sex trafficking, and they're going to bring some good information.
Absolutely. And we welcome you guys to that. Okay. This is what the platform is about. Okay. We do different things. We don't just talk mess. We talk. We communicate. We try to impart love. We try to impart understanding. We try to impart forgiveness. You know, because I know that my team right here, every day I got to ask them for forgiveness for some of the foul shit I say. Okay, so
my last thing before we get up out of here, Jocelyn, thanks for the movie suggestion.
Yes,
you got it, kid.
Thank you.
Next month, the Players Club. So we got Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. We're gonna do something, all right, next month.
Oh, you got a new movie out.
Yeah, who cares? Hey, but I want everybody here when we get off. Just stay on for a second, okay? So we got a couple of words for y'all. Everybody, this is
please.
Before we go.
You're beautiful. You're smart. You're loved. This week we're great. You got this. You're a badass. You can do this.
I love it. My favorite.
Man. And we got to thank also Ludine for coming in too.
Adelia.
Good night.
Tune in tomorrow, DopelivenTV Live. All right. We got more for y'all. Okay, it's Freestyle Friday. Okay, and we still are in the business of motivating. Okay, we'll see you guys tomorrow. That's it.